This is an easy one. Congress passes the laws. You know, Congress, upper house, lower house, Congress passes the laws. And it obviously did not pass a massive loan forgiveness program. Notably, Joe Biden campaigned on loan forgiveness. He wanted Congress to do it. Once he became president, he was urging Congress to do it because he and everyone else understood this is something that Congress needs to do. Last year, famously, Nancy Pelosi, she's at a press event. She stands up there and gives a little lecture. She says the President of the United States does not have the authority to forgive loans. Maybe he can postpone them, maybe he can delay them, but he does not have this authority. Congress must act, she said, in a kind of hectoring, lecturing tone. Well, thank you, Nancy, for the Schoolhouse Rock lesson. Too bad Joe Biden didn't listen. Welcome, everyone, to the National Review channel, your source of facts, rationality, and scintillating hot takes on the latest news. I'm Rich Lowry with your reality check. Now, the Biden administration is maintaining, hey, guess what? Congress did do this. What? I mean, this is a big debate, right? If these laws were written up and proposed and sent to the relevant committees, and the committees marked them up, and the committees debated them, and the committees voted them out, and they went to the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate, where they were more extensively debated, and there were big floor votes, and it was on C-SPAN, and you had the C-SPAN vote counter going, to get to majorities to pass them, and then it was sent to the White House for the president's signature, and he had a big ceremony with Elizabeth Warren standing behind him on the White House lawn. We would have noticed, right? Someone would have noticed. Someone would have at least tweeted, hey guys, guess what? Congress just passed a $500 billion student loan forgiveness plan. I didn't notice that. Did you notice that? I didn't notice that. You know why? It didn't happen. Now, in a classic instance of gaslighting, what the White House is now saying, well, you know what? Congress did do it, and you actually didn't notice it because it was back in 2003. There's this thing called the HEROES Act. So what is the HEROES Act? The HEROES Act passed in the aftermath of September 11th. It says if there's a war or national emergency, the Secretary of Education can modify the student loan assistance of the affected individuals to make sure they're not worse off at the end of these events. What Congress is clearly thinking of, you're a Marine after September 11th, you're going to spend years now overseas in combat zones. It's going to be a lot harder for you to pay back your student loan, and you shouldn't suffer a harm because of that. Or it's saying, your community has been destroyed by a tornado, by a hurricane, some awful event, you lose your job, you have to relocate, it's harder for you to pay a student loan, and you shouldn't suffer an economic consequence because of that. It clearly wasn't creating a magic wand to hand to the President of the United States a couple decades later to create a student loan jubilee. And if it was a really weird way, an extremely strange way to go about it. The HEROES Act passed the House, Republican-held House, 421 to 1. It passes the Senate by unanimous consent. This is clearly not a debate about a debt jubilee. That would have been hugely divisive. It wouldn't have passed a Republican House or Senate. And the Supreme Court, relevant to this argument, has famously said that Congress doesn't stuff elephants into mouse holes. So that's kind of a funny phrase, right? What does that mean? It means if Congress is going to do something really big, it's not going to hide it. Right? It's not going to do it in some vague provision that you can find somewhere. It's not going to do it in a footnote to legislation. So what the Biden administration is arguing here, basically, is Congress took this bull elephant, right? The executive authority just to forgive millions and millions of student loans, this aggressive, massive beast, and somehow stuffed it into the tiniest little hole in the floorboards. That didn't happen. That just didn't happen. Even if we take the HEROES Act argument on its own terms, it still doesn't work. Because again, the HEROES Act also says you have to qualify as an affected individual, you have to have suffered some direct economic hardship. And the fact of the matter is, Congress went out of its way to keep people from suffering direct economic hardships, right? Congress flies these helicopters over the country and just kicks out of the doors trillions and trillions of dollars in direct economic aid and enhanced unemployment benefits. So there's no way that all these millions of people that are going to benefit from this Biden action all suffer direct economic hardship. And there's zero attempt on the part of the Biden administration to distinguish among these people and determine the people who did suffer the direct economic hardships. No attempt to do that whatsoever. So that just underlines the justification that points to the HEROES Act is a bad joke. For the President of the United States, without any authority from Congress, on his own, just on his own say-so, to unilaterally spend $500 billion up to $1 trillion. This thing could cost up to $1 trillion depending on how it affects behavior. On his own is a shocking and gross abuse of our constitutional system. You know, Teddy Roosevelt was someone who, as President of the United States, he liked action. He liked to do things. He didn't like cautionary notes from lawyers. And there's a famous story about there was a deliberation in the White House one day over something that TR was going to end up doing one way or the other. And when they're having a debate about this, the debate comes around to his Attorney General, who tells President Roosevelt, you know what, Mr. President, don't let your beautiful action be tainted by any hint of legality. Well, that's a good line, but it is a grotesque and un-American way to govern. More about this and even more extensive and detailed discussion on our Editor's Podcast. Please check it out.